What do you think, Martin? Is this a Champions League club in waiting? Is this going to be their moment?
Well, they're riding the crest of a wave at the moment. It's been a fantastic year for the football club, a fantastic year for the manager. He's an exceptional manager anyway. I think he was harshly treated, might be too strong, at Arsenal before, but his record would suggest that he's got something. So Aston Villa were in a bit of turmoil before he arrived. Up he comes, there he arrives, and you expect maybe manager stepping in there, maybe results going in his favour early on and things plateauing. At the end, it's just been a continuous rise. Absolutely fantastic, really, really good manager, good set of players as well too. And I was just saying off air there that they'd spent some money on the players. Simon told me, rebuked me by saying that they had spent 290 million but had recouped 200 million. So well done them if that's the case. So essentially, they have an excellent manager. They have the players look as if they believe in exactly what he's telling them. I was listening to a couple of interviews there in the last number of weeks by the McGinn, and they really do like him. Now, liking a manager and respecting a manager might be two different things. So I think they've got a bit of both about them. They look as if they're on the rise, and why not? Why not?
Why not?
You know,
I mean, size and stature. This should be a Champions League team.
Well, I mean, when I managed the side, that was my ambition to try and get into the Champions League. That was and we failed twice. We finished sixth three consecutive years, but on two occasions taking it almost to the wire. And maybe hopefully, or the possibility of the next year maybe kicking on. As it turned out, it didn't materialise. Forget about that. At this moment, yes, they have the wherewithal to do it, and why not this year? In their performance there yesterday was terrific, really, really terrific against West Ham, and their home record, which is really, really important to them. You know, if they're going to win the games at home, I think it's 11 consecutive victories at home. That's fantastic.
That's great. I mean, can you believe it's 13 years out of Europe? I mean, since you were there.
Aston Villa should be competing or should be getting close to European football more often than that. You know, there's no question about it.
Absolutely. I mean, Simon, I think questions have got to be asked. Obviously, who's not going to finish in the Champions League places if Villa is to grab one? That's another debate, another conversation. But this could be the season, I think, that they could do it.
Well, I mean, I have an affection for Aston Villa. You know, I grew up at a time when people like Tony Morley were playing and Peter Withe were playing and Gordon Cowns was playing and Dennis Mortimer was playing and Jimmy Rimmer was in goal and whatever else. And I watched that side win the European Cup. I actually got on very well with Doug Ellis. And that was surprising given not the personality differences and the age range. But there is a difference between Villa and that Villa and this Villa now. They're a big football club. They are, to me, one of the biggest football clubs in this country. Martin will be able to attest to that more specifically. But, you know, they started the season getting beat 5 by Newcastle. And people sort of looked at that and thought, hang on, this is not a follow-on from the previous season. Martin is right and wrong in the same breath. In the last 3 years, they've spent 290 million quid and recouped 190. So their net spend is 30 million pound a month. 30 million pound a year, sorry. But in the first season, he's right, they spent another 90 million quid on top of it. So the 4 years they've been back in the Premier League, they've spent, you're right, 200 million quid net, which is not, when you're thinking about it, it's £50 million a season isn't a huge amount of money in the scale of things when you're looking at the other sides that are trying to compete to get into the top 4.
That's true.
And Newcastle, it's an interesting one because this was a guy that was going to Newcastle. And now we're talking about this guy being in the same potential space as
That's a great point.
Yeah. He was always a good manager. You don't get to manage in some of the jobs that he's managed in PSG if you're not a top manager. He hit the Arsenal space at a time, like most situations where somebody's been in control of a football club for a very long period of time. There is always this challenge. He picked it up after Wenger in the same way that David Moyes picked up Man United after Ferguson. He got Arsenal going for a season and then fell away. Then you had all the challenges with Granit Xhaka. You had the culture of the Arsenal fans looking at Arsenal through a certain perspective. But clearly this guy's a decent manager. And, you know, I don't mean to be mean-spirited and unkind, but you put a proper manager into a decent football club, there's a distinct possibility you're going to get decent outcomes. Not guaranteed, but you put Gerrard in there, who was learning his trade, coming from Rangers to Villa, I thought was always going to be a very difficult job for him to do, and that he was going to put himself in jeopardy as well as the football club, and so he duly did. But this guy comes in, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he expects from his players. He knows how to play football. He knows how to adapt and pivot and to be able to manage big football clubs. You manage PSG, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
You know, you manage PSG with a 77% win record. I know what we're seeing in their league is not anywhere near comparable to the challenges of the Premier League and some of the other big leagues in Europe, but notwithstanding it. So I'm not surprised. But do I think they'll get in the top 4? I think they'll be hard pushed. Well,
I think they'll knock on the door, Simon.
They may well knock on the door.
But
I think the usual suspects. I think Chelsea's engines are starting now. I think Man United, despite all the apparent chaos, will find some levels. And I think if you look at what's in there already, your Liverpools, your Manchester Cities, your Tottenhams, your Arsenals, I think it's a big ask. I don't think it's beyond them. But I don't think they'll be pricing it into their thinking that it's a given. But listen, I like this. I want to see a competitive league. I want to see 8-9 teams really trying to punch into the Champions League.
Yeah.
And Villa are clearly in that space right now.
Villa's the kind of team that we want to see keep company with the elite in the English game. I mean, there's Tony Cascarino this morning in the Times, Martin, telling us that in his view it's the best Villa side since Atkinson won the League Cup with them back in 1994, which begs the question, why have they underachieved for so damn long?
Yeah, well, Tony obviously has forgotten the 3 years that we finished top 6.
So you're not having that?
Well, yeah, well.
And you're right to say it.
The best side that Aston Villa have ever had is obviously the 1981-82 side, because they won the league, and I'm talking about in the last 50 years. You can go right back into history where, they were founder members of the Football League way back in 1883 or whatever it was. So what I'm saying is that, we had a really fine side. This side at this minute has loads of potential to go past my team, loads of potential to go past the side that he's talking about, Ron Atkinson's team. They have yet to prove that yet. And let's see what happens at the end of the season.
What stopped you, Martin, when you look back at it? 6, fantastic. Yeah, great. But what stopped you getting to the promised land, the Champions League?
The last few results of the season. I know. I hate to go back into it. I've never thought about this for a moment other than every 35 seconds. It is to do with we come back from a European venture in Russia, and we played a game against Stoke City. We were 2-0 up with about 8 minutes to go, and had we taken all 3 points, it keeps our impetus going. We dropped the Stoke City scored twice, and Glenn Whelan actually scored a goal, and Glenn Whelan hasn't scored a goal in 35 years. And so he scores a goal against us, and it's the equaliser 2-2, and it did knock the steam out of us for a while. That was it. But we know the next year we finished 6th again within two games to go before the end of the season. We're still vying with the likes of Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester City at that time for 4th place.
Was there a mentality issue, though, competing with the ones who are already there?
I don't.
Like they're going to have again, it would seem, this season.
You'll always make assessments and judgments on things that when you don't actually get there. And there's lots of reasons that you think, oh gosh, I wonder if we could have done this, could have done that. Eventually, because I played the same side almost every single week, and we didn't really have the squad size enough, we might just have run out of steam. Physical steam, in the sense. The last season we contested the League Cup final, we were in the semi-final of the FA Cup, and we finished 6th in the league. And essentially with the same smallish group of players, because the peripheral players were perhaps not good enough.
Sure. So Aston Villa, it seems, on the rise. Is this the season they're going to get top 4?
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.